Hello, everybody. Welcome, welcome. I am 5 minutes late. um, Unsurprisingly, I wasn't quite as ready for crafting as I thought, and my children had some last minute requests, which I was fulfilling. Um, so here I am. I'm going to wait a little while for everybody to join, and hopefully some of you will soon. But if not, I'm just going to do my thing. And actually, this workshop is so beautiful and powerful and affirming. And, I really believe that if we let ourselves stay in joy, that we are so much more powerful and we're so much more fueled to do the things that we love. And the things that we love are not just self-healing. The things that we love always ripple out, right? Always. So I want to share what I love to do with people. And that's why it doesn't matter what medium of art or creativity you're using today. You could be writing in a journal, or painting. I was planning on painting, and now I think I'm actually going to make a drawing with markers. I might do multiple things. I'm likely to do multiple things. It doesn't matter. I'm just going to do what calls me. And I really want you to know that that is what this whole week is all about. It's about remembering that we're already enough, that we don't have to keep trying all the time to be better. Right now, my form of trying to be better, since that's sort of a frame, I think, an internal frame that I have. It's not, I guess it's just that I always want to be in growth. And sometimes I judge myself for being in what I think is protection mode. But it's not protection mode. It's also just a natural part of the creative cycle, right? So sometimes I isolate, I watch TV, I smoke pot, and I eat a lot. These are some of the things that I do. And at the same time, I'm writing and I'm crying a lot, I'm emoting. So it's something very productive in the sense of the creative cycle. And what I mean by the creative cycle, or my understanding of the creative cycle, is that the creative cycle is, which is, I think, easiest demonstrated by the workings of our creative bodies, right? The bodies that create life. So my body has created life and does create life. And that for me was the catalyst in how I lived life. So I don't believe that you have to have children to be a woman, or that you have to have children in order to access this power, or even identify as a woman in order to access this power, or have female biology. I don't really know because it's not my experience. So I'm going to speak from my own experience of the creative cycle in my body. So the way that I'm relating it to my body is, I once heard Achintia Devi, and I might be pronouncing her name wrong. I have to move this back. Okay, so I once heard her describing the moon cycle, which is the creative cycle, as those first couple of, well, it depends on which way you're looking at it. So for me, I'm going to say the 2 weeks before my period, my moon time, my bleeding time, menstruation, whatever, those 2 weeks before are when I go very inward. That's when I'm very likely to be more introverted and be going really deep, writing a lot, talking a lot, crying a lot. Grappling with shadows is one way to put it, right? Integrating those shadows, because shadows are just pieces of ourselves that we've pushed away because maybe we experienced shame or hurt around those things, or we believed that we wouldn't be loved for those things. So some of those things are speaking my authentic truth. And interestingly enough, of course, these are all things that I've gone on a pendulum swing from doing it with no boundaries and no sense of other people's space to not doing it at all. And now I think I'm back in the middle where it's like, hey, I have an opinion on this. Do you want to hear it? And if you do, come and join me somewhere, you know, in a workshop or whatever. So I think I'm better at choosing my audience now, which is it's just a lesson, right? There's nothing, I didn't do anything wrong, but people learn by making mistakes. And anyway, so the creative cycle, going inward, integrating really emotive and really internal work. And then for me, there's the time that I bleed. And I mean, the red tent to me, it just sounds like a dream. Like the time that I bleed to be sitting on straw or on earth with my sisters and the small children, like the ones who are still nursing, for a few days while the men are like not allowed to come in, sounds pretty awesome to me. So that would be my ideal way to spend my menstrual time. And then the 2 weeks after for me, roughly 2 weeks, you know, 2 weeks after for me are really more that like exhaling back out to the world. The like, I have learned this, I have integrated this, and now I'm like releasing it all to you, and I'm sharing it with you, and I'm like expressing myself. And this is just the creative cycle. You can't always be outward and expressing yourself. I can't anyway, and I believe that we're not meant to be in a permanent state of that output, creative output. I wonder if it's the masculine that, you know, has kind of like, we've all been taught to be in our masculine and sort of forgotten the power of the feminine. Anyway, I digress. So that to me is the creative cycle, the going inward and then releasing. And pregnancy is very much of that. Like we go inward and we grapple with things. And for me, like I said, motherhood was really a catalyst to taking responsibility for myself and recognizing what I wanted in my children. As I learned more about small humans, I recognized some of the things that I could see that they needed in my belief, you know, that my children needed, like to be able to, these are all just things that were important to me, right? Like it's so, these were things that matter to me. I'm not suggesting that they should be things that matter to everyone. Okay. So, but I want my children to have lots of adult connections and lots of children. I want them to have free space to like run around in. I want them to be free to move inside and outside as they need or desire. I want them to be able to be passionate about what they're learning and learn things that inspire them because they want to complete a project or learn something or grow in some way. These were all things that I believed, you know, for my children, as well as like the way that they eat, the way that whatever. And, you know, above it all, what I really wanted to teach my children was just that they are everything, that they're so loved no matter what. I love them at the maximum. Like there's nothing that they can do to make me love them less because I love them at the maximum, and I'm always going to love them at the maximum. There's no other option. It's just, this is the same amount of love. You know, and if they were superheroes, I say to them, because they're just about 5 now, like if they were superheroes or supervillains, I would still love them the same because I'm their mama, and it's just universal law. And that's what I tell my kids now. But I've lost my train of thought. Anyway, I think I'm going to wrap it all back down to the beginning. If I remember, I'll come back to it. The creative cycle and my children, they were the catalyst. I needed them to know that I wanted them to love themselves. I want them to love themselves. I want them to grow up trusting their own intuitions. It is my experience and my belief that people, when we simply follow the prompts of our bodies, we follow our highest path. I believe that the universe speaks to me through my body. I believe that the goddess speaks to me through my pelvic bowl, and she's doing it right now. So here we are. And thank you for being here with me. I'm so excited to share some of my love with you. So I want to start with, we're going to do grounding and centering. Yeah, we're going to do some grounding and centering and move our energy into our bodies. So as you might be able to tell, I did that actually before coming on here today. I actually did an extended orgasm practice and self-love practice that really, raises my energy, and then I considered my intentions for coming here. And so I invite you to do the same thing right now. Before we get all started and get all juicy, let's set an intention and then just let it go and not even think about it again. And just, work on moving into our bodies, because that is where I believe women's power comes from. And we tend to get really stuck in our head. So we got to get into our bodies and get moving and get juicy and access that power and empowerment and creative gloriousness that is a part of our bodies. Okay, so I'm actually going to stand up, and you're going to see how incredibly comfortable I am living in my home in the winter, surrounded by snow. This is silk cashmere. It is unbelievably warm, and it is also true that it has a hole in it. And I'm not wearing a bra. And I'm going to own it all. But obviously I felt some discomfort when I realized, and that's why I had to say it out loud. Now I'm over it. Okay. So I am going to stand. I don't know what is that best. So I'm just going to find my comfortable stance, starting with my feet. I'm so silly. Okay, starting with my feet, just finding that balance, like lifting up all four corners of my feet, wiggling my toes, and feeling, sort of where my arch is and how my arch is, and spreading my toes, and like feeling like I even need to give my toes a little bit more room to spread in these socks. I'm wearing nice woolly socks. I'm head to toe in wool and cashmere. Socks, long johns, and boat sweaters, and silk. I love thrift shops. So here I am. Finding that balance in my feet, letting it sort of move up, finding the micro bend in my knees, feeling that sort of, where is my pelvis comfortable, or maybe I'll just roll my pelvis a few times. Just same way you'd wiggle your toes. You wiggle your toes to move your consciousness there, right? And cells cannot help but be changed by consciousness. So we're just moving ourselves into our pelvic region, our pelvic bowls. And I'm just going to be breathing. I'll take a few breaths with you, in through my nose and out through my mouth. And really just like letting the shoulders fall, letting the tongue fall, just relaxing, feeling. Well, I'll do those few breaths and then I'll add more, okay? Really relaxing the lower belly. I'm moving back and forth. I feel more comfortable getting, and it's for me easier to get into my body in movement. I think that's true for many women. Women are round and expressive. So I really love the idea of dynamic meditation, like all that movement, just like getting in. So I'm just gonna shake around, and I invite you to just join in with me. Just move into your body. And feeling my feet grounded to the earth. How she holds me, nurtures me, nourishes me. It never stops. It never stops. I live 100% off the earth. My air is filtered and cleaned by her and her children. My food is her and her children. My water, if it is not of the earth, is also much needed. Cleansed and cradled by the earth. So just letting those roots thicker and thicker grow out of my feet, planting themselves, holding on, and that nourishment moving actually back and forth between us. Because the higher space that I find myself in, the more nourishment I'm giving to Mother Earth, and the less unnecessary resources I use. The more I am in tune with eating according to the season I'm in, which often means eating much more locally. Eating less sugar or, imported goods from countries that are indebted through colonialism, indebted to the World Bank. I'm not going to go into economics. I might, actually. So it's an interesting thing because for me, escaping from my body, which we do when there's pain in our body, right? When we've experienced trauma and we're holding it in the tissue of our body. When I was escaping from my body, I was always doing things that were more of a drain. This is what I mean. I was always doing things that were more harmful to my own body as well as to the earth. And I still do sometimes. And I'm mostly okay with my soothing methods now. Anyway, I mean, we all have soothing methods, right? Because really, I think at the core of it, we love ourselves. And Mama Earth, she gave us all of these things to soothe ourselves with because maybe there was a time for it and we needed it. And now we're ready to step into self-responsibility, which is, being responsible for our own healing, our own learning, taking charge of our own life path and the path that we choose to create. I'm not saying that circumstances don't happen. I just believe in claiming the things that happen to us and saying, yeah, that happened. This is what I learned from it. Last year, I got out of an emotionally, sexually, physically abusive relationship. And man, oh man, apart from having my children, which are obviously the catalyst of my entire life change, the most amazing things that happened to me, even if they weren't a catalyst, right? Obviously. Not to mention, I learned so much about myself because what all of that brought out in me, what this person brought out in me was a recognition, like it was all the triggers of every single trauma I'd ever held on to. So he made me aware of that. He made me aware of all the ways that I needed to heal myself. And I mean all. And I struggle from self-awareness. Which is why getting into the body is such a relief. It's such a relief to be present in my body, right? And when we're accessing this like center of intuition and power and creativity and all good things, when we live from this place, we live with a lower center of gravity and we are more balanced. And I mean that in every way, right? Spiritually and physically and mentally, emotionally, whatever. We're more balanced. And by the way, when I say emotionally balanced, I don't mean that we can't lose it. That's knowing when we need to emote is part of emotional balance. It's a really important part. It's like the part that we're missing. So yes, getting back into my body, breathing into my womb space. I'm actually going to place one hand on my heart and one hand on my womb, whichever feels better for you. One hand on the heart and one hand on the womb. And when I breathe in, I can feel, the energy moving into my heart space and then deepening into my womb space and expanding it, just letting it breathe in. The whole womb space and the diaphragm and the lungs and the heart, just allowing to receive this life, to receive this life from the universe. I allow this life that I was born for. And I am open and willing to receive any and all abundance for the good of all beings and creatures. I'm ready. I'm ready for the life that I was born for. And so, with this practice today, I intend to move from my heart in joyfulness and gratitude for life and for being here and for having inspiration and connection and sisterhood and love and power and the internet and warmth in my home and everything else that is good. And I intend to imbue the works that come through my body, my own musings, to imbue them with the power to remind me that I am enough right now. It's time to stop fighting and start living from joy. Find what feels good. Follow the things that turn you on, the things that excite you and terrify you all at once. Nobody could ever have had my path except me. And so the things that I create into this world are completely unique in time and space. If I don't do it, no one will. And so with that, a little dance party. Does it turn you on? If I don't do it, no one will. Does it turn you on? If I don't do it, no one will. Does it turn you on? If I don't do it, no one will. Does it turn you on? If I don't do it, no one will. Does it turn you on? If I don't do it, no one will. Does it turn me on? If I don't do it, no one will. Does it turn me on? If I don't do it, no one will. Does it turn me on? If I don't do it, no one will, 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 no one will. Woo! All right. Now, you take a breath, get a drink of water, get comfortable. I'm going to help out my kids and come right back. What is it? What's up? Hi, somebody called me. How am I going to make your goat milk? Here. You can have that. Is that okay, babe? Well, I asked if you can have it, love. Can you? Okay, are you actually going to have it? I'll get you one. Here's how sweet. Scorpion. Doesn't turn me on. Here you go. Is that enough? Yeah. Now there's just a little bit more. I don't know why I only bought one because I had no money. Okay. All right, I'm back. So, what? Spoon. get me a little spoon. You're so welcome. I'm just gonna move this a little because sometimes there's splashes and spills. I'm gonna be painting, you guys. Kombucha. Maybe not right there. I want the computer to be safe. And I have decided again to paint. Okay, so the prompts that we did this week were on day 1. What did you learn in 2000 or in the last year? What did you learn in the last year? Some of the things that I am displaying right now that I only learned in the last year, not only, I have such a judgment on myself for how long it takes me to learn things. It's preposterous. The judgment is like, I mean, really, if it takes me too long to learn things, or if I didn't already know, like, the judgment is coming from even the process of learning, right? Which is to make a mistake and then learn from it. So I'm saying that really ideally I would have just died on day 1, because then I wouldn't ever have to learn anything and go through a process of realizing I was wrong. Anyway, okay, some of the things that I learned last year that I'm displaying right now. Creativity is the gateway to for me, sexual healing, but also like joy and pleasure and fun. I, my whole life, thought that I was a not creative person. And so in the last year, I've learned that I am a creative person. Yes, I am. And that's funny because 2 years ago, I can't over these things. So 2 years ago, I had my astrological chart done. And like read by an astrologer. And so she gave me my sign, I'm Leo, and my rising sign, Cancer. And my moon is in Virgo. And she, I mean, among other things, people who know me will totally just be like, yeah, that's Tess. So among other things, that combination means that Cancer rising. So the astrologer explained to me that your rising sign is sort of like people's first impression of you, or the first thing. Oh my goodness, I cannot open this thing. And there is somebody here with me. So hello. I don't know if you're a person who can chat, but it would be awesome to. Oh, it's Martina. Yeah, I know. That's okay. So in the beginning, and you can totally do some of this now, and I'll actually remind us throughout because I need a reminder throughout. So in the beginning of this workshop, I basically just said, let's get comfortable in our bodies. So we did a bit of a grounding and meditation, like just into our bodies. And mostly that was just like getting up and getting comfortable, you know, grounding with the earth. You could do it right now if your feet are on the ground, just letting roots grow from your feet into the ground and feeling that nourishment and that strength, you know, like the earth gives us everything, air and water and food, everything, right? So just getting into our bodies and grounding. And then I had a little dance party. And now I'm just trying to get set up. And I was telling a story. And then I'm just, after I tell this story, actually, you know what? It would be better to do it the other way around. So I'm going to do that first, then I'll go back to the story. So I did want to say that this past week we've had 4 prompts, right? So one was, what have you learned in the last year? And I was just saying that, like, even I am creative is something that I learned in the last year. And that's why I was talking about the astrology thing, but I'll get to the story later. Among other things, I think it was the very first year that I had the experience of feeling very powerful. and really actually being able to like choose my own destiny. And that is not a feeling I have necessarily held on to consistently. It comes and goes. But the good thing about it is that once you've had that, in my experience, like once you've had that once, you can't ever forget it, which is nice. Can be difficult if you're not there. At least for me, I tend to beat myself up for like not being there, not being wherever I think I should be. But often that's tied to the creative life cycle, which is, Martina, also something that I had explained at the beginning, but that's okay because this video will be available. I was just talking about how the creative cycle, like our menstrual cycles, is like it's linked to going inward and integrating and looking at ourselves and looking at our shadows and, you know, accepting those parts of ourselves that might scare us or that we might be ashamed of, and saying, yes, they are there. And like, you know, yeah, I do see you. So I often, like, I think lots of us, because we were raised in a patriarchal world, just a society, right, that's built on the need of man, the rule of the fathers. Often we expect ourselves to be constantly creating outwards and constantly outputting. This is one of my children's gardening clubs, by the way. I'm using it to take the lids off the thing, so it has great grip. Okay. The constant output is often expected from us in the society is totally unnatural, and it's like so not conducive to a natural creative cycle, right? Which requires that like introspection. It requires, you know, making mistakes and emoting and talking about our stuff. Anyway, okay, back to the questions. I'm a little too in the flow right now. So I want, in case you missed my post earlier, what I want you to do is take all of the pages or wherever you have put it that answered the 4 prompts that we had earlier in the week, right? So those 4 prompts were, what did you learn in the past year? Who or what inspires you and why? What are the most exciting things that people have said about you? Like to you, the nicest compliments or whatever, or observations, I should say. And then number 4 was what makes you come alive. So those are the 4 days. And for each of those days, for the first day, I want you to write, I have. And the second one, I want you to write, I love. No, I believe. I believe. And the third one, I am. And then the fourth one, I love. And so if you haven't already done this by the time you're taking this workshop, I mean, if you're here with me live, I know, like, this is it. Here we are. But if you're watching this on a replay later, then you can even just pause here and go back and do those exercises right now, because they're that, like, sort of simple. And more stuff is going to come to you as you go, so you don't have to worry about not having as much time to do it. Or, of course, you can pause this for a week or a month and then do it when you're ready, right? It's if you bought this, then it's yours, and you can do whatever you want with it. Just gonna, obviously, okay. Invitations versus telling somebody what to do. I invite you to pause now and go back and do this exercise. Okay. So I did this earlier in my notebook, which I don't have with me. So I'm going to write it down so that I stop stalling while I say it. I have, I believe, I am, I love. And then if you go back to all of the work that you did this past week and just circle like keywords or key phrases, or you may have already done this even, right? Like kind of find patterns or whatever. And then from there, you can create all these beautiful sentences, right? And try to think about like, I have, I believe, I am, I love. Try to think of like spirit. What does the spiritual side of you have and believe and am? Okay, whatever, you know what I mean, and love. You know, what does the physical part of you have and believe, and what is it, and what does it love? You know, like you could do the emotional, the mental, and just do the whole medicine wheel, you know, and create these sentences. So that's the next step. Um, I have, I believe, I am, and I love. And once you have some words or some phrases or some, you know, power things, I'm actually going to show you something that I did another time. Yeah. So I know you can't see because it's like the mirror image thing going on here, but you can still kind of see, right? Like yeah, well, I'm not mirror image. I believe I am unique. I am powerful. I am enough. Here it says I am a visionary, connector, connected, connection. I Oh no, you know what? That's my kid. He wrote H and R, which are my kid's initials. So he actually painted H and R on this, which is awesome. I am magic. I am creator, lover, intelligent. So anyway, this was something that I just did with my kids, which is actually what birthed this workshop. So there you go. Like I said, my creativity is a doorway to inspiration and vice versa. It's a beautiful energetic cycle. So yeah, so you can take these phrases and incorporate them into your art, right? So we made this intention to imbue this with the power of reminding us who we are, right? That we're actually enough. We don't have to like keep fixing ourselves or whatever. I know I talk a lot about self-healing, but like part of self-healing is just acknowledging who we are and that it's okay. You know, like I have trauma about this or that, and I'm just going to say it. I don't have to. It doesn't mean that I'm thus obligated to fix myself or change anything, right? If you look at the cycle of how human beings learn and grow, we can't actually learn when we're in a trigger state, and we can't change anything. Well, of course, because change is learning. So we can't change anything or learn in a trigger state or in that state of not accepting where we are already. We have to first accept where we are and who we are and what is true for us. You know, for example, I might say, when I'm really overwhelmed and frustrated, I want to hit my kids, and I have totally smacked a kid. Not even that long ago, like less than 2 weeks, which is probably why it's coming up. I totally gave my kid a smack on the bottom. And I know it's not like I'm not gonna turn myself into a horrible parent because of that. I understand it all. But I had to integrate that. I had to integrate like the shame of that for me, and knowing that like it was my responsibility to take care of myself so that I wouldn't get to that point. That's something that I often like put all of that on myself, and that's not an intention either, right? I want to accept who I am now. So saying, yeah, I really want to hit my kids when I get to this point is like, okay, that's a good awareness to have. And then once I'm at that point and I can accept that that is true of me, then maybe I can make a skills practice like, you know, I want to have a calendar with like set self-care. Like I am actually, you know, on this day I invite people over to play charades with me and my kids. Like, and on this day I do this, and on this day I go out without my kids and have a massage or whatever. So for me, you know, like self-care, that's what fuels our growth, and so much of that is just the joy and pleasure of having fun, which is another thing that my kids kind of were the catalyst of. Learning that I was a creative person went through so many trials and tribulations. But what I really love is that both of my kids love doing crafts and stuff, and what kids don't? I mean, really, I think like when there's no expectation on us, most humans do love to create something in some way or other. So that doesn't mean everybody loves to paint or sing or write prose or dance, but we all have something. And I really enjoyed a definition. Brene Brown put it in her book, I think in Rising Strong, and I think that it was I'm going to blank on his name, and I blank on his name all the time. But the Apple guy, for heaven's sakes, this is ridiculous. Anyway, you know who I mean, and it doesn't even matter. But he talked, no, it wasn't. It was like maybe a Disney or Pixar. No, it wasn't that either. Okay, I don't remember. It doesn't matter. Both of those things have something to do with that story. But the point is that creativity is the act of connecting things. It's just the act of connecting things. So whatever connections you make in your life, whatever ways you like to play with things, that's your creativity. So whatever brings you joy is exactly the space in which you are most creative. This is just my beliefs, right? Just my beliefs. Oy vey. I'm just going to keep on talking and painting. I imagine that some of you out there are singing right now. Me talking might not be the best for you guys. I might do some singing too. So great, dancing and singing and painting, like I'm just having a blast. Now I'm also just gonna give everybody, including myself, a reminder to get comfortable and putting that little bend in my lower back. That really helps me. Shoulders naturally fall back. My friend was telling me, I just love the way that she described it. I was like, oh yeah, that's so clear. Put a little bend in your back and your shoulders automatically fall back. It's like you can't even make them go forward anymore. It just feels horrible. That sounded interesting. Oh, it's just straws. Stainless steel straws. My kids were going to come and be creative, and then they couldn't find the good scissors. And they're watching TV. And so just whatever, whichever way that you are choosing to express yourself, just letting it all be. I find that for me, the easiest way to create, like in a really just joyful flow, is to try to have as little thought as possible. And if I find myself drifting into thought, then either just like laughing at myself, like, oh, haha, nobody cares what this looks like. Whatever works for you, right? Or getting back into my body, like, okay, you know what? I just need to be comfortable and like go back to my heart and go back to my womb space. And just, be present there. And even saying to my womb space, I am present here. Now I'm feeling a bit sad, actually. So I might even be present with some sadness and release some sadness. I have no idea where the sadness is coming from, but it doesn't matter. It could just be the joy of being here and just doing what I love. I'm so happy right now. I don't know if you can. Of course you can see. I'm brimming. I'm just vibrating with joy because I'm here with you. And I honestly mean you, like who's watching this recorded. I can feel you. I can feel your energy. I can feel the people that this is going to reach. I truly believe that because nobody is actually here with me live right now. There was for a little while. But everybody's a mom and everybody has households and children and like everything to do. Oh, I have an eye right here. Trees and plants and things very often grow themselves eyes or even whole faces. I believe it is conscious. Like, I believe it's a way to communicate and reflect back the world. That's what we do anyway. But I do believe in the consciousness of trees and plants, among other things. All living things. I suppose you would call me an animist. Let's see here. So yeah, there's an eye here and here and here and here. Lots of eyes. I'm not going to paint over them. I kind of want to highlight them. Nobody could ever do what you do. Not a single person is ever going to repeat your life path. And as they say, your karma informs your dharma. Your life experience informs your life path. I believe that when people are like sort of in that, I mean, of course, we're all on our life path, but you know, like when you're sort of firmly in that space of like, this is my life path, this is where I'm going. And when you're, you know, doing the external output and people can see it, I find that often I can tell like, oh yeah, you're just doing exactly what you're supposed to be doing, because and everybody's doing what they're supposed to be doing at all times. Like, don't get me wrong. I truly believe that. What I mean is that when people are on the part of the path, when they become more well known, like this happens to a lot of people. So maybe I'm just talking about the famous ones. All right, my words aren't imperfect, and it just is what it is. What I'm trying to say is that I often find there's a real unique quality to people who are like using that creativity and the experience of their life, because what they do, nobody else would ever have done it just like that, you know. And I don't just mean just like that, but there's a certain kind of blending of lots of different forms of creativity that comes out in such unique and such, it's like there's such a clear purpose there. Maybe it's just part of my, I'm a bit of a visionary, and one of my archetypes is magician for this fact. So it's possible that this is just one of those things that I see in the world, because I see it in the world. We all see our things, and that's part of where our creation comes from, right? Our own life experiences. I mean, our entire life is created by our life experiences. And so I'm all about claiming our past. I've done some shitty things in my past, and I've had some shitty things done to me. And they have forced me to change, to make my boundaries much clearer, to be self-responsible. Boundaries are a big one. You know it. I know it. And shame around not always having had such good boundaries. That comes up too. I remember asking when I was at Rhodes, which is where I did my life skills coaching certificate. Best school in the world. Not that I have the experience with all schools in the world, but I can tell you I did not know that schools like Rhodes existed until I met somebody from there who was just so skilled. She knew all this stuff I wanted to know, and I was like, I need those skills. And I asked her how she became so amazing, and she said, I went to school for it. I was like, there's a school for that? You want to learn those things at school? It must have been an amazing school. And she said, yeah, it was. It was the best school. She's like, I would have only gone to the best. Took me a few more months of hitting rock bottom until I came to a place of really wondering if the best thing for my family would be for me to leave. Because I believed him. I let myself get to a point, before changing, before saying no more, I believed this person that was telling me that it was all me, that I was abusive and a bully, and that, my children would be better off without me. I got to a place of believing it. Of wondering if it were true. I suppose if I did believe it, I would have left. But it was more of a sincere wondering. And I started to read Vagina by Naomi Wolf. And I realized that I had a whole shit ton of sexual trauma, and that it was related to my lack of empowerment, feeling like I was creating my own life, feeling like I could even handle my own life. I didn't at that point feel like I could handle my life. And I kept trying to make this person go and, whatever, change, right? And finally I realized that I was the only one I could change, and I didn't have any control over him. It was when he agreed we would go on a family retreat to Costa Rica or something, and then he was violent. I said, we're separated, and he said, I'm not going to do this with you. Actually. And I just realized I need more skills. I'm the one who knows that this all is wrong. And I need more skills. And that college saved my life. And I do not remember now why I even brought it up. Self-responsibility? I don't know why I brought up roads, but self-responsibility is one of the very best skills that I ever learned there. It's so powerful to recognize our own choices and take ownership of them, and not even to have to change any of our choices. That's not what self-responsibility is. It's just, instead of saying I have to go to work, it's saying I am going to work, and recognizing that that's because we have a choice to go to work or not. And the consequences of not going might, be scary, or, even feel impossible. That entirely likely. If there's anything that we feel like we have to do, it's usually because the consequences are too big for us to feel like dealing with, which is totally fair. Everything has a time and a place. But for me, using that language of self-responsibility, saying I am doing this, or like these are the choices I see, and I'm not comfortable with either of them. I don't like this one and I don't like this one. Those are the moments that I actually open up to more creativity and realize that there's often more than, this one and this one. And taking responsibility for my own life, it's like, it can seem overwhelming if it seems like somebody is asking you to overhaul your entire life at once. And small changes, any changes, can really feel like that, right? It's like the death of... There's a quote that I love from a book that I also love called Hope for Flowers. It's a beautiful, beautiful, beautiful children's book that I love so much. And so there's a quote that I often use, which is like, what does it take to become a butterfly? She asked. Well, you must want to give up. You must want to be a butterfly so much that you're willing to give up being a caterpillar. You have to be willing to let go of everything that you've known, because sometimes the smallest changes to how we react to something, for example, the way that we react to something, it infiltrates every single aspect of our lives. So if you think about learning, or even the life, I need to let this dry now because my first layer. So when I think about life, I often imagine a spiral, and it's a spiral with spokes, sort of spokes, but interestingly, they only affect outward from where they hit on this spiral. So if the center is when I was born, right, then every life experience that I've had has continued to shape and like basically add things to my mold, right? It's all like, it's just adding stuff. It's just adding life experience. So I keep getting bigger. I'm a bigger and bigger person. I mean, I can let things reduce me. Don't get me wrong. I can do that like nobody's business. But actually, there's still more knowing. I'm still bigger. I really hope this is clear to you. And I just snorted. So, and then the traumas or like the feelings that I didn't know how to release, the feelings that I held in my body, those are the little traumas that sort of touch the spokes and then go outward from there. So like this one happened almost right at birth. And look, it affects every single, like every time I add a new layer, it's just going to kind of keep on hitting. And so it's the same when I sort of start to like peel back the layers or like look back at the layers so that I can rewrite my own story and say, no, I wasn't a victim, because this is how I learned from this experience. And this is how this experience made me bigger. And like actually doing the work to get bigger, which is the healing work, which is often shedding stuff. It's letting go of stuff, crying and being angry and letting ourselves feel all of that so that it can move that energy out of our bodies, right? So anyway, so if a trauma happens out here, then it only affects out here. It doesn't affect all of this stuff. So this is kind of how I think about learning and life. And so I can think that I've like healed a trauma, but then I also can get to a further back layer or a further in layer and realize that that trauma actually had already affected me then, and this is how it affected me. But what I really love about this work, this reminds me of something that I was saying to somebody earlier. What I really love about this work is that once I learned life skills and how to heal myself, and that's because Rhodes is an experiential school. So they teach everything by experience, and you have to actually learn how to move information into your head and then from your head into your body, which takes the going through the heart, like I said in the previous video, right? So it's that learning. And once we can do that for ourselves, and it sounds really simple because it is, but simple doesn't mean it's not terrifying and really courageous. It is. Courage means the whole heart, which is also what integrated means. It means whole. Being able to speak your truth from your whole heart is like the most, it's literally the definition of courage. So anyway, learning all of that and then starting to help other people heal has not only been empowering and changed and transformed my own life, it's shown me that almost everything that we're carrying around is from early childhood trauma. And almost all of that early childhood trauma is accidental. It's just a big colossal mistake. It's a big error in human history that, like over a long period of times, the connection between mothers and their children sort of grew less. And even in the First World War, when women were told, like, you need to leave your baby for 12 hours at night so that you can sleep, so that you can go out and work because your husband is away at work, right? Like, this was just told to people, and then it was all justified, right? With like sleep soothing and self-soothing techniques and teaching children how to do whatever. Like these kind of just basic errors. That's just one of so many, right? But like even the undervaluation or the devaluation of emotion and the purpose that emotion serves, which is literally like how neurons change shape and we adapt. Like when I talk about emoting, I often talk about it from the emotional sense of how of moving the feelings or the stuff that we hold in the fascia of our body that makes us sick. We move that out of our body by emoting. Further than that, it balances our hormones. It changes the shape of our neurons. Like we literally, crying is the biological mechanism for adapting past feelings of futility. So when we feel hopeless, like we can't do anything, like there are no good options for us, then we can cry. And in the changing of the shape of our neurons, some would also say we're raising a level in consciousness. We actually reach a higher level of consciousness because we reach that place where we've adapted and no longer see, I had this choice and this choice. We suddenly see, oh, I'm not okay with either of those. I cried to like move the futility out. And guess what? Now that that feeling is gone, I can see a whole other range of possibilities. And what do I need? Okay, how can I make that happen? Okay, and it's just step by step. So it can seem like a really huge thing, but we just take it one choice at a time, or one acknowledgement at a time, or nobody is asking anybody, when I talk about taking responsibility or self-healing, it's not about hurrying up. And this is like my lesson, totally, because I'm impatient with myself. It's not about hurrying up. It's just about taking incremental changes and, saying, I choose to dance before my workshop, right? Like whatever it is, every single choice is an opportunity to come from our hearts and do what we love. And I believe that coming from our hearts or our bodies, like that intuition, that whatever it is that you want to call it, when your body is ill, it's just directing you to something more glorious for you, right? So I was never intending on us completing our creative project in the time that we have together. And I certainly haven't completed mine, but actually I think it's really beautiful. And I don't know how much else I'm going to add. I'm really happy with it. I love the colors. I love the eyes peeking out. I'm just super happy. So my intention when I did it was to let it dry and then add to it, and I probably will do that. Just something like some of my power words, maybe like sort of the 4 things that I've been kind of playing with, this idea of like my business is all about these 4 things. Another business that I really liked did that, and I found it really powerful for understanding where they were coming from. So I was thinking of doing like just those 4 words, like responsibility, I actually wrote down my 4 words, and I think that they are empowerment, responsibility, creativity, and inspiration, or love. I don't remember now, but I did write down 4 words, and I'm surprised that I don't remember them. So I might just do that. It's kind of a reminder of who I am and where I want to act from. I don't want to act from a place of fear. I want to act from a place of love and excitement. And I've been practicing how to turn my fear of things like being seen, or making mistakes in front of people, inevitable if you do anything in front of people, like all of these fears, I've been working on turning them into excitement. So I am going to close with a little, because we have new moon energy right now, we're using the power of the new moon to set these powerful intentions, right? So I know that we've already set an intention, but I'm going to close with a sort of more. I'm going to add more to that, which is, so I said, like, we want to be reminded that we're already enough, that we just, that following our joy is the most responsible thing that we can do, because it's healing. And it helps us grow, and helps us have compassion and hold space for other people. And I want to also imbue this with a sense of, well, just remembering how powerful I am, and that Fear, when it comes from my ego, can be replaced by excitement. So the excitement of not knowing what's going to happen, the excitement of showing up for myself, and the anything is possible kind of vibe that comes with that. So instead of being terrified because anything is possible, and I am going to get judgment and criticisms, and that just has to be okay. Also, this excitement of, but for all of that, how many people can I reach? How many people can I help? How many people will be inspired by my willingness? So I am going to get comfortable again. I have both hands on my womb space, kind of ovary space. I only have one ovary physically, but I have both energetically. And I'm just I've got my legs spread on this chair because my hips feel more comfortable, and I feel really grounded down, like, and just move my energy and my weight down into my pelvic bowl and like feel the earth pulling at me, feeling the interchange of energies between the earth, who is grounded and connected and is life source. You know, the place that I go when I die, I go back to the earth. And my carbon carries on and I become other life. I'm connected to that endless cycle, and there is nothing that can happen to me that can take me out of that cycle. There is nothing that can ever happen to me that can take me out of that cycle. I have nothing to fear when I follow my dreams. I am meant to be the person that is whispered to me in my daydreams, in my visions of the life I would love to lead. I'm enough right now. It only takes doing what makes me come alive. So I ask that this day be forever etched in the memories of my body. I ask that this workshop and this video training helped me find some financial stability. And that's really hard to say. That's really hard to shake, because I have shame that I haven't already figured it out. But that also is what I'm asking, and I do believe I'm powerful when I ask for what I want. We are the ones we're waiting for. I've known silence. I won't be silent anymore. It's not my fault, it's my lesson. It's not my fault, it's my lesson. It's not my fault, it's my lesson. It's my healing. It's our healing prayer. I love you so much. Thank you for watching this, for being here, for doing this work. Thank you for letting yourself shine. Thank you for being willing to birth the whisperings of the universe onto this earthly realm. Thank you for being willing to be a part of what it takes to create heaven on earth. And that is what we are doing. I love you. Peace out.